The SiteShed podcast is made possible because of Tradie Web Guys, creators of beautiful websites designed specifically for tradies and contractors. If you're tired of dealing with web designers that have no idea about your industry, then head across to tradiewebguys.com.au and reach out. Like many companies from all over the place, you'll be very glad you did. Hello and welcome back to Toolbox Talks on the SiteShed for part 3 of the How to Grow Your Business with Online Marketing series with Will from Growth Labz. This is episode 3, which is the third and final episode. It's tried and tested online marketing campaigns for tradies and contractors. Here in this episode, you're going to get some actual real life examples and case studies of campaigns that have been run for trade-based organizations. So make sure you tune in to get the most out of that. Also make sure you tune in to take advantage of the amazing offer that Will has thrown down on the table for you guys. So get involved.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the SiteShed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello listeners, welcome back to Toolbox Talks on the SiteShed. You are joining us for part 3 of the How to Grow Your Business with Online Marketing series that I'm conducting with my co-host, Wang from Growth Labz. Will, welcome back.
Great to be back again. Thank you.
Man, this has been a cracking series. I reckon this is going to be one of our best, to be honest. So we are definitely looking forward to the questions and all the, the follow-ups that are going to come as a result of this. But I just want to give the listeners a quick recap of the episodes that have been previously. So in the first one, we were talking about why you need to be marketing online. That was an amazing episode. And if you missed that, go back and check it out, because we were talking about, I suppose, some of the fundamental elements there that are required in online marketing today and how it fits into that entire ecosystem. And Will also, perhaps stupidly, offered to any of the listeners out there, anyone that wants to send in or apply for Will to actually run and create an ad for him in Facebook, he's going to do that. So basically all you need to do is head across to iTunes and leave a review for the SiteShed, and then basically we will be able to, we'll go into a draw and we'll pick out one, and Will's going to actually create an ad and a campaign for you in Facebook. So that's worth a lot of money actually. And then in episode 2, we were speaking about the 3 key pillars to online marketing success. Of course, we're talking about the offer there, the advertisement, and then the sales and follow-up process. And then in this third and final episode, we're talking about tried and tested online marketing campaigns for tradies and contractors. And this is not just bullshit that we've made up. This is actually stuff that Will has actually done, and it has worked. So tune into this because it is relevant. Will, take it away.
Cool. Look, this is going to be a really creative episode. So I'm happy to share some of the stuff that we've done that's worked.
Yeah.
But I think what will be more fun is, I'll share 3 or 4 specific examples. But afterwards, if you want to throw a couple of more kind of niche trade industries at me, maybe we can even brainstorm and go through and think about how we'd actually build a campaign for them from scratch.
Sounds good. All right. So basically, we're going to try and make this podcast episode relevant to. Will's going to run through some examples that he's actually applied in the past. I'm actually going to throw a couple at him, which is going to be relevant, firstly, to emergency service, and then secondly, to more contract-based project work, so people that do things like home renovations or builders, etc. Okay? Sound good, Will?
Sounds good.
Rock and roll. All right, case studies. Let you go, man. This is you.
Yeah, so case studies, I'm actually going to include a download with the podcast where I can go through and show some of the ads that we've done in the past. So if some of the things I'm talking about doesn't quite make sense, look, don't stress too much about it. Get the download and you'll see the ads in action. So the first one that I wanted to talk about was a landscaping case study. Mm-hmm. So this was a client of ours, and it's actually a not-for-profit client. And what they do is they help the elderly stay at home on the northern beaches and live independently and happily in their own homes. So the angle that we were going for is, why don't we come in and do the lawn mowing for you? And what you actually get is the money going back into the community.
Okay.
Now, if a tradie's listening, if a landscaper's listening to this and going, well, I don't really know how this applies. Well, you don't necessarily have to have the whole not-for-profit angle, but you might have a different angle, that there might be an organization that you support. So you could say things like, 10% of profits for the next month for landscaping goes towards this organization. There might be some kind of angle that you can play on, which makes you unique to every other landscaper out there.
Yep.
So,
okay.
yeah, so the principle of showing this case study was, you don't necessarily have to be a charity, but you do want to stand out from every other landscaper that's in the market. So what we did for this landscaper organization was we created a set of Facebook ads that had a bit of an offer as a 20% off the first month of landscaping on there. We created an ad talking about the benefits of having a professional landscaper in there. So what we talked about was if you want your lawn looking nice and tidy, to impress your friends, or just to feel fresh and nice about your property, but you really hate doing the work yourself. So either, you don't want to put the effort in, or there's just a lot of time that you don't want to waste on your lawn. Why not give us a call and we'll give you a very competitive quote plus 20% off for the first month.
Right.
So that campaign went through on Facebook. We targeted that to a very local area. So what we did was, geographically. What we looked at was anyone who lives within, I believe it was 25 miles. So when you're on Facebook ads, because it's an American platform, they use miles, which is a bit funny, but we looked at anyone who lived 25 miles radius from Manly, right? So that's just one example. And what actually happened from that set of ads was, so we actually got a 2-to-1 return on the very first month of running those ads. So what that means was for every dollar we spent advertising that first month, we had enough clients come back to double the returns.
Yeah, wow.
Now, that's not even the most exciting bit, right? Because chances are if someone's getting the landscaping done in month 1, well, in month 2, they might need the same service. And, the average clients will probably come back 9 to 10 times in a year. I mean, during winter, landscaping tends to slow down, so there's less work going through there. But on average, 9 to 10 times, it wouldn't be unreasonable for someone to come back and get the same service, especially if they're happy with what you've done the first time around.
Yep.
So that campaign's going to bring back a whole lot of money. It was a great campaign. The entire community got behind it, and people really loved the service. So that was something that was really cool. And and it shows that if you get it right, if you get the messaging and the targeting right, it doesn't take a long time for the returns to actually come back.
You know what? Landscape gardeners and anyone sort of in that whole gardening industry are in such an awesome position all the way around the clock, like annually, because of seasons. Like every time there's a new season come on, there's different plants grow, different flowers are growing, different ways to maintain your garden, like all this stuff. There's so many cool things you can do from a promotional point of view as somebody in that industry, just purely based on the fact that God says so.
Yeah. You have to expand your thinking as well. So even though these ads were specifically about lawn mowing, well, when you're actually in there mowing the lawn, you can have a look around and go, hey, by the way, I noticed you've got some hedges that need to be trimmed.
Absolutely.
Do you want me to do that as well?
Yeah.
So, it might have started off as just a $50 job, but quite quickly that can turn into a $100 or $150 job.
Yep.
9 times a year. So
love it. What else you got?
Yeah. Well, this one actually wasn't done through us, but I've noticed that this ad has been showing up on my Facebook feed a fair bit. So when that normally happens, what that says to me is they're doing well enough from the ads that they can keep pumping money into the ads. And that was an ad from a solar installation company. So, I believe what the ad was talking about, or the offer, was to actually get some kind of government subsidy. So what recently happened was, of course, so the subsidies are changing and people are kind of confused about the industry, saying, do I or don't I still get this subsidy, the $4,000 off? And what this ad from the solar company did was actually very clever. And so they talked about, yes, we can still help you get that subsidy, but not for long. So They built a lot of scarcity into their advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And the photo, and they showed photos of families standing outside looking up at the solar panels, kind of using imagery to target who they really wanted to get in front of, which was obviously homeowners with families who wanted to save on their electricity, or they wanted to appear more green. So the targeting was actually done quite well.
Yeah.
And so when you click through from memory, it goes straight to a landing page that asks, that gets you to put your details in, and they'll call you back, or they'll send you an email back and give you a quote. But that ad had been running for a while. It had a lot of engagement. So when I put my marketing hat on, I assumed that they had made a lot of money from this ad.
Yeah, nice. And I think as well, for that sort of industry, you wouldn't need too many jobs in order to make it very profitable. I've got
not at
we've got
all.
clients here in the Northern Beaches that specialize in solar, and they just kill it. It's a pretty lucrative market, but it's in everyone's interest too, because I mean, even from the end user's point of view, I mean, why would you not want to invest in solar technology? If you're not investing in solar technology, you're off your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Carry on.
Yep. So that was a great ad that spoke to a market which was quite receptive. So as you said, people were starting to look at solar very seriously. It was just the right ad at the right time. The next ad that we can run through is actually a Google ad. So Google ads typically aren't as graphical as an ad on Facebook. And this was a Google ad for a kitchen making company that we helped in the US. And what we did was, instead of looking at, we're a kitchen builder, just come in and kind of check out what we do, or do you want a kitchen? We can give you a quote. What we actually did was we built a bit of an offer around there with the 10 most trendy kitchen ideas for this season.
Yeah.
So imagine someone's looking at the kitchen, is looking tired. They'll go into Google and type, so kitchen maker, kitchen renovator, Chicago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, 2 or 3 other ads will go, call us today for a quote, we can build your new kitchen. We had this ad that stood out and said, here's the 10 best or 10 trendiest kitchen ideas that'll make your neighbors or your friends envious of your kitchen. So that was the offer. The benefit was, well, when friends come into your new kitchen, they're going to go, wow, so essentially making them the Joneses, right? And making all their friends jealous and that kind of thing. But what we actually did to the offer was just a 10 to 12 page PDF. So it was beautifully designed, had really nice kitchen layouts and photos on there. And to be honest, some of them weren't even their own kitchens. Some of them were actually just stock photos. So it was really easy to put together. And from that, the people who opted in and who have requested that document are kind of in the phase where they're serious about looking at the kitchens, or they're very interested. And then what we did off the back of that was we ran some email nurturing campaigns that eventually got people into the showroom. And once the people came into the showroom, we had another series of nurturing campaigns that kind of talked to them, and talked to the specific style that we're looking at.
Yep. Yeah, this is great. This is a good example of how, like, what I typically call a longer lead service business. So, kitchen makers, builders, etc., how they could leverage Google Ads to their advantage. Because as we've already sort of capped on, typically an emergency service, it's, okay, I need a service, push the button, call now, book it in. Whereas with something like kitchen making, that's typically not the case. Like, people are sort of more interested in getting some information, maybe shopping around a little bit. It's not like an immediate thing. So that's a good example.
Yeah, and just with that, there was another kitchen building company in the US so I did some advisory stuff with them, but that company used a very similar strategy, and they went from 0 to more than $10 million in less than 4 years. And they were primarily doing Google advertising.
Yeah, wow.
So if you do it right, it can be very powerful.
Cool. What else you got?
Well, I've got one. So I think we touched on this in the last episode where we talked about some more information and content marketing. So in the last episode, we talked about a carpet cleaning business that used statistics and information around how dirty the carpets can be to kind of get new leads. Well, that can be used in the hot water system industry as well. So having gone through the process recently myself of buying a hot water system, if someone had approached me with a document saying, if your hot water system is more than 5 years old, here's the type of absolute junk, right? That the water that's in the water that you're pouring all over yourself every time you take a shower. So if you had an ad like that and someone read it, or if you got it in front of mums or people with family, and they're looking at it and go, really, there's copper in the water and there's all this other crap that I'm really just using every single day. Maybe it is time to talk to these guys about a proper hot water system.
Yeah, interesting. That's so. Was that a Google ad scenario there you're talking about, or it could have been anything, I suppose, Facebook or Google. Just talking in general about education, right?
Yeah. So that was more of a hypothetical. So that could be something that's on Google Ads. Now, typically, if someone's looking for a hot water system on Google Ads, that might be more of an emergency service rather than someone kind of thinking about it. That being said, it's not going to always exclusively be emergency, because when I was looking for my hot water system, mine hadn't broken down yet, but I was looking on Google.
Yeah, gotcha. Awesome. So what do you want to do now?
Do you want to get creative? Do you want to throw some industries, niches at me, and let's see if we can come up with some creative stuff for the listeners?
Yeah, okay. Well, look, we got a lot of builders that listen to this show. So why don't we talk about maybe a campaign we could run for a builder who specializes in, let's just say, renovations, located in St Kilda, down in Melbourne.
Right. Okay. To run any sort of campaign, so first of all, if I was a builder, I'd look at what type of projects I actually build. So I mean, would you be looking at high end renovations or
Yeah, let's say
looking
let's say high end.
high end?
Let's say 100,000 plus.
Right. And within the renovations itself, are you this theoretical builder?
hmm
Do they specialize in any type of area, or are they more of a generalist?
Well, renovations is kind of specialized, so they won't do new builds, but they just basically go into an existing home and they will renovate that.
Okay. So what I look at doing with that kind of campaign is I look at the end result. So the targeting that you'd probably be looking at. So first of all, we need to think about who we're trying to target, and then we're going to think about what kind of message are we going to get to them. And the very last step is, well, what platform are we going to use? So following the step-by-step process, if I was a builder, kind of high-end, looking at doing renovations, I'd imagine that the people I'm targeting are middle income to high income families who have been in their family home for, probably about 5 to 10 years. And they've started to notice a few of the things kind of falling apart or starting to look a little bit tired.
Or perhaps even they're in the stage of creating a family and they need an extra bedroom.
Yeah. So, yep, that'll be great. So if they've got other kids on the way and they just want another bedroom, or if they want to create a separate space for whatever reason, that'll be, so the more specific you can actually get on the reasons why they're looking at your services, the better it would be.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just take the example of.
Would you call this, Will,
you're going to say?
sorry to interrupt, would you call this like that whole identifying your customer avatar scenario?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you can get very specific about your customer avatar, your marketing and your message gets so much stronger that it really speaks to these people, and look, it's going to do so much better.
Yeah, so we're not just saying for the listeners out there, families living in St Kilda, we're talking about what age are they, what sort of income do they have, what kind of cars do they drive, we could really break it down. The more specific you can be, the better.
You might even think about what kind of sports they actually follow.
Yeah.
Right. You might even look at what kind of school they're sending their kids to. Because if the kids go to private school, well, chances are they've got a little bit more money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can think about your target client or your client avatar. But it's really important to get that part right before you move on to the next two steps. So this hypothetical builder, we're looking at renovations from $100,000 plus on the higher end of things, and we're looking at servicing families who might have another child on the way and they're looking to expand and maybe add another bedroom. So the messaging then of what I look at doing is, well, what would the family be thinking about when they're going through the process and thinking about adding the extra bedroom? So having kids myself, I'd imagine they'd be saying to themselves, well, we're going to need extra space. Things are cramped already. So, it would be nice to get some more space for the new child. They might be saying, well, it's not fair for two of the kids to have to share a bedroom and one to have their own bedroom. So we better build another bedroom and give all three of our kids their own bedrooms, things like that. So I typically like to, what's called, get into the conversation they're having in their heads. So kind of try and figure out what they're saying to themselves or to each other when they're in the buying process. Now, taking some of the points from there, what I do is I'd write some advertising saying, just focusing on the fact that they've got another kid coming into the world and what a big deal that is, and that they need to, make sure that everything is perfect for this new child, right? So all of the ad would be, if you're thinking about, so my advertising would generally be around how to make sure your child's new bedroom would be perfect for them, or how to make sure, you add the perfect extra bedroom for your new baby, or something like that. Really talking about some of the fears that they've got, some of the pain points they've got, and why they're looking to engage your service. Now that we understand who we're trying to serve, now that we've got a little bit of a message or a little bit of a creative message on our service, then I'll look at, well, how are we going to get the advertising done? So, we've talked a lot about the Facebook targeting system throughout this podcast series. I'd actually start off with Facebook just because we know our clients so well. And I'd create some kind of document that they can download that guides them through the process. So if you're thinking about getting the perfect renovation or perfect addition to your family home for your new child, here's a 10-step process you need to think about to actually get that happening on time and on budget. And by the way, if you want to download this or if you want to find out what they are, give me your name and your email and potentially your phone number as well. So anyone who actually does that, well, they've qualified themselves because, we've done the targeting right. We know exactly who we're talking to. They resonated with the message enough to give us some detail or some value, right? Being their details. And now it's up to us to follow up with them and to consistently nurture that lead until they're ready to go and pull the trigger.
Awesome. Love it.
Cool. Glad you like it.
All right. Is that one done then?
Yep. That one's done. What
about something in more of an emergency service? So we sort of touched on hot water. Why don't we do like maybe emergency electricians? So guys that specialize in like power outages and things like that. Your lights have gone out or you've blown a fuse, that kind of thing.
That's actually fine. No, I had a cheeky little campaign that sprang to mind immediately when you mentioned that. So before we go back into the 3 steps, I just wanted to talk about this cheeky campaign that I'd run just before I forget it. And it'll be a Facebook campaign with some kind of teaching material titled "Some Common Electrical Emergency Issues You Can Fix Around the House and How to Do That Without Killing Yourself."
Yeah.
So I make that a file that people can download because I think one of the biggest fears, and especially, I'm definitely not hands-on. I'm the furthest thing from a tradie, even though I come from a tradie family. And every time I have to muck around with electronics, in the back of my mind, I'm going, I don't want to kill myself. So sometimes being cheeky and speaking to what's actually going on, would actually get people engaged. And people might have a laugh out of it. But then they might go, yeah, actually, this actually does sound like pretty good information.
I think the fact that you just called it electronics pretty much supports your argument there. So
yeah,
carry on.
there are so many sparkies out there listening now going, this guy has no idea what he's on about. Sorry, guys.
At least you're good at marketing, mate. That's all right.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've to be good at something and trade's not it. So it's my fallback. But look, so what we're talking about is emergency electrical repairs. Again, we'd have to think about, well, what type of people would be likely. That kind of service is such a broad market, right? So that's not as focused as a previous example where we knew exactly who we would be targeting, because potentially anyone could have an outage, anyone could have an emergency where they need someone to come out and see them. Nowadays, the buying process is, I think that if they've got something like that, well, the audience or the target market is very broad. So I'd actually go through the messaging angle and make sure the messaging is tight to get the people coming through. And so what I do for the messaging is you can talk about if you have an electrical fault, we'll get out to your property if you're based on Northern Beaches, for example, if you're based in St Kilda, if you're based in the Gold Coast, wherever you're located, you can have a solid guarantee. So imagine, what Domino's did for pizza, right? Like we'll be there in 30 minutes, all your service is free. That might be an angle that you can play on for the emergency services. And let's just take that one angle. So what I do for that is I think to myself, well, if someone's power's gone out, how would they actually be finding out what we do? Now, if the power's gone out, well, they're not likely to open up an ebook or to kind of, try and find my details. But they might have their phone on them and they might be Googling emergency plumber Gold Coast.
Electrician.
Yeah. Emergency.
Electrician. Get a rude shock if a plumber rocks up.
Yeah. These guys are going, mate, we're electricians, we don't do plumbing at all.
So it'll be $120 though.
Yeah, exactly right. Thanks for that. I'm going to go back to sleep. Yeah, so look, what I'd actually do is I get the message out there and I put that message up onto Google in very specific terms. So I'd be targeting keywords like emergency electrician and your area that you service.
Yep.
And what's going to happen is when someone's in the situation where they need your services, chances are their mobile phone is still going to be active and they're going to have 4G connection to the internet. So they're going to use their mobile to search for your services. And then obviously, on the landing page or after they click on your ad, make it very, very easy for them to call you or to text you, or if they're looking for an emergency service, chances are they probably don't care about a lead nurturing campaign because they need the service now.
So make sure, I suppose, that ad, when they see it, well optimized for mobile as well. Make sure it's
exactly
basically built mobile first, which should be everyone. If you're a tradie out there listening, that should be the reality anyway. Pretty much, especially if you're an emergency service, you should be built mobile first.
Yeah, look, I mean, nowadays there's no reason not to do it. 70 to 80% of all web traffic is going through a mobile device.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a massive. If you think about how most people are typically browsing, it's either on their mobile phones or it's on iPads. I mean, it's something that you just can't ignore. So even if you're not doing ads, mobile responsive, mobile optimized is definitely the only way to go.
So for any of you listeners out there that do not have mobile responsive websites, or if you're not sure, email us in because that's what we do. Bit of a
And
plug there.
just from having seen the website and, no affiliation or anything, just to guess, Matt does it bloody well. So if you haven't got it done yet, have a chat to Matt.
Okay, so basically we run this out on Google. We would be enticing people to call right away. They're not so interested in a nurture campaign because they need a service done immediately. So the difference there between those two examples was obviously the first one has a little bit more of a lead time. So it's more focused around, I suppose, people that are there to gather information, whereas the second example is more focused around an emergency service. Is that right?
Yep, exactly right.
Fantastic. Will, how can people find you?
So the easiest way to find me is to shoot me an email it's will@growthlabz.com. That's Growth Labz with a Z. And that's because I couldn't buy the domain Growth Labz. So put it at a Z on there to be cool. So will@growthlabz.com. Otherwise, head to the Growth Labz website or on our Facebook page.
Fantastic. And we'll post links to that, of course, within the show notes. Will, I just want to say a big thanks, mate, for coming on the show. This has been an absolute cracking series. And I want to say thank you also for the resources that you're going to be leaving behind, which we'll be able to get to from the show notes. Any of the listeners out there that want to get hold of them, all you got to do is head across to the link in the show notes there, and you'll be able to get access to all of that stuff. And likewise through there, if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments, and I will endeavour to get Will back on the show to answer them for you. Will, thanks very much, mate. That was fantastic. Did you want to leave anything there with the listeners?
Mate, thank you so much for having me. It's been a bucket load of fun. And if your listeners have any questions, look, do feel free to shoot questions through. Maybe we might even do an encore if there's enough of them.
Yep, no, I think there will be, especially with that amazing offer. Mate, thank you very much. That is a wrap. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.